Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, and welcome to the program. It is, what the hell is it? It's the 5th of March. It is a Wednesday, and we got a full show today. I have a guest coming in, a playwright, and I'm going to call her an activist, whether she does or not. Tammy Ryan, and she's also a professor at Point Park, and we're going to be talking about a big issue in the news and not going anywhere soon, and that is sexual assault in the military. It is something that has come out of the closet and plopped itself down right smack dab in the halls of Congress. And there is outrage and horror and even still disbelief at the scope of the problem. We're going to talk about it, and an opportunity coming up this weekend to further look at this issue from a number of different angles, okay? But first, let me sniff. Thank you. And then let us deal with some of the other news of the day. Okay, I got to say this again. I just think listening to John Kerry and other Americans talking about Russia's incursion into the Ukraine as if it were unheard of behavior is so bizarre. Listen to this quote. Here's the one from today that I think is just a riot. Secretary of State John Kerry. It is not appropriate to invade a country and, at the end of a barrel of a gun, dictate what you are trying to achieve. Do you have some cognitive dissonance when you hear that? It is not appropriate to invade a country and, at the end of a barrel of a gun, dictate what you want to achieve. Excuse me. I remember the brass bands and the yoo-ha, hoo-haing, sending our soldiers off to Iraq not too long ago. And it seemed to me we invaded that country, and that country didn't have a border with us. And we said, as Putin is saying, this is distressing to us and potentially harmful to our citizens. He's got a better case than we ever did. We went into Iraq, deposed their tyrant, and the chaos and disorder of that country after our great fix is obvious if you dare to dig around in the news these days, because, you know, we've turned our attentions elsewhere. The fact that Iraqis are living again in absolute destabilized terror might be surprising to some because we've moved on. But we invaded that country at the end of a barrel of a gun. Shock and awe. And you know we did that because we wanted to dictate what we wanted to achieve. And Kerry goes on to say, that is not 21st century behavior. That is not G8 major nation behavior. Well, John, yes, it is. That's exactly what major nations like the United States do. Invade countries, push their weight around, and try to create change and democracy at the barrel of a gun. With the barrel. At the barrel. Whatever. I've heard a lot of people... I had the radio on the other day. I think Cokie Roberts was opining on things. And when asked essentially that question, well, what do you say to the fact that some Americans are reacting to all our spluttering on this and sputtering on this issue by saying, well, and she just dismissed the question by saying, well, false equivalency. I wish she had embellished more upon her false equivalency, because I don't see it as a false equivalency. I found this little item, changing subject. I found this little item on my bedroom floor when I came home yesterday. Obviously, I had ripped it out of, this looks like the Wall Street Journal, intending to share it with you yesterday, and it must have fallen. So here it is, a day late. $1 short, and maybe now, I thought I for sure was going to tell you a story you hadn't heard, and now perhaps I'm not going to, because it's a date later. But this story strikes me as funny. It's not funny to the family involved, nor to this girl who screwed her parents out of $80,000. Here's what happened. There was a dispute that a gentleman in Florida had regarding an age discrimination that he felt he had suffered in his place of employ, a school in Miami. It had decided not to renew his contract. He charged age discrimination and a few other things. And finally, this didn't go to any kind of hearing. It was mediated, and there was an agreement made. And, the way these agreements often work is that nobody agree. I mean, the school doesn't say that it discriminated. There's no admission of guilt. They just hand over a bunch of money, of an undisclosed amount of money, and then everybody is supposed to shut up. You're never supposed to, you swear. I mean, you sign papers saying, I will never divulge the result of this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so he didn't. I mean, he went home and he told his wife and daughter, hey, we got 80,000. So, to Facebook, where the daughter posts this 4 days after. Mama and Papa won the case against Gulliver. Gulliver is now officially paying for my vacation to Europe this summer. Suck it! Well, the school's lawyers immediately jumped on that and said that comment constituted an obvious breach of the settlement agreement, and therefore it was no longer obligated to pay. And the Third District Court of Appeals has agreed with that. And so this guy is out the money. Out the money. Finished. Can you imagine that family conversation? Oh, God almighty. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you that because I don't know. It's not funny, but it's shh. He obviously didn't tell his daughter strenuously enough, or else he shouldn't have shared the amount of the largesse with her. I don't know. Back to my talk about I never saw people using so many umbrellas during snowstorms. I'd never seen it in my life. Seriously. I mean, I come from a snowy place, as you know, Wisconsin. I've never, in my 120 years, seen anybody carrying an umbrella during a snowstorm. And I don't recall seeing it much around here either until recently. And now I'm seeing umbrellas, although I think around here you say umbrella, don't you?
Umbrella?
No, wait. No, you just said umbrella. I do second syllable umbrella.
Yeah.
I swear around here a lot of people say umbrella. Umbrella. Which I'll match your
You can, too.
Jess is back. She sounds like hell. Looks fine. Umbrellas. Anyway, bumper shoots. So, and I might even be able to be moved on this issue. At first I scoffed. Umbrellas in the snow. But it is precipitation, as I said. Yeah, I mean, it is precipitation, and I suppose it does provide some, I don't know. Anyway, all this is a preamble to Denise's email. Lynn, I am not sure, but I suspect the umbrellas in the snow may seem uncommon to you because you drove to work and or did not come into downtown during rush hours as you now do. When I worked downtown and commuted on public transit every day, I carried an umbrella when it was snowing. A real snowfall, not just flurries. And so did many other people. It was very common. Now that I drive to my job at one of the colleges here, I never see people using umbrellas. And why are you saying it's a suburban urban thing? No, umbrellas in the snow. But I do see, here we go, me too, many Asians carrying umbrellas in the sun. Yes. Yes. And actually, yes, and Denise says, as a fair-skinned person, I think that's a great idea. I'm sure it is a great idea. It's akin to, if you look at pictures of women in, I don't know, Victorian times, and they always had a parasol. And I think a parasol was specifically, it wasn't for rain, it was to shield their alabaster skin from the sun. Because being tan was not a good thing back then, being as white as possible. I even think, is that why didn't they take like some poison that actually made, I'm not kidding, I don't think I'm making this up, this just came into my head from somewhere. I swear I think there was some poison ingested that would give them this like sort of pallor. I swear. Anyway. Denise says, I sometimes get a kick out of your transit tales as a person who used public transit for work and school up until about 10 years ago. So we're talking decades here. It's funny to hear the things that seem new or different to you. It's a little like listening to a newcomer talk about your hometown. That's right. But I feel like a vet now. I mean, you heard me. It's when I started working downtown. That's 5 years now. And initially, I was just blown away. And now I'm just I'm not as enthralled. I mean, I just thought it was wondrous to stare at everybody and overhear conversations and look at the scenery. And I noticed that nobody else seemed to be of that mindset on the bus. And then I decried the fact that everybody was looking down and on their cell phones, and nobody was engaging anybody else. And now I'm one of the people looking down and not engaging anyone and just generally, I don't know, neither here nor there, just totally flat affect. I'm just another bus rider. So, anyway, I guess that's that. So, in advance, Oh, I did want to bring this up because this is just mind-blowing to me. Yes? Hello? Hello, caller?
How you doing?
I'll
make this real quick.
All right.
Real quick. What do you think about this Kerry going over to Ukraine and telling them he's going to give them $1 billion for aid? If anything pisses me off is when they keep giving our money away to these other countries. Yeah, I don't know if the Congress has to authorize or whatever, but I'm thinking, yeah, give $1 billion. Or why don't you give another $1 billion to Syria and some of the other countries? Like, we're doing so great here, they're going to give $1 billion here. That is bullshit, as far as I'm concerned. I'm considering changing my registration to independent. I about had it with the Dems.
Okay.
We'll see you.
All right. Bye. I mean, all I have to say to that is that kind of aid is the currency of geopolitics, and railing against it will get you about as far as, I don't know, pissing in the wind. I mean, it is what it is. It's like it's the reason rich people give money to politicians. Money gains you access and power. And the absence of that money, in other words, if we don't give aid, then we lose our seat at the table to affect some change, a little bit here, a little bit there, to have whatever country we're trying to influence be a little more in our pocket than they might otherwise have been. And see, we got to counter the money because everybody else is giving them money too. I don't know what to tell you about that. It ain't going away. And it's not just the Democrats, and it's not just the Republicans. And even if you change to independent, whatever that means, it will not change the fact that the currency of geopolitics is, well, currency. It is. That's how it still works that way. I don't know. I hear your disgruntlement, but on the other hand, I just don't think that's what's. I don't think it's going to change anything. So, here's a little item that University of Chicago, out of the University of Chicago, much heralded institution of higher learning, and it has to do specifically with their economics department. Now, my sense of the University of Chicago's economics department is of an extremely conservative. Don't ask me to name names, but I do think that is I suppose economics departments in general are conservative. But Chicago's definitely. And they, on their syllabus going into, I guess, the spring quarter, which I guess is going to start momentarily, I guess on a quarter system. Anyway, they were going to have a guy named with the incredible name of Fabrizio Torre instructing an honors class in the elements of economic analysis or something. Now, Fabrizio Torre is a young guy. He's like 27 years old or something, and he's sort of infamous, but by another name, a name he called himself when he worked at Goldman Sachs, and he called himself Fabulous Fab. So Fabulous Fab was going to be teaching this class. Now, because he's now studying to get his doctorate in economics at the University of Chicago, and so he was going to be, I don't know, whatever. Because of his real-world experience, it was thought he had a great deal of wisdom to impart to the honors students. His experience involved working, as I said, at Goldman Sachs, and he was the designer of a financial product called Abacus 2007 AC1. And what this was, guys, this was exactly the kind of crap that sent this country into the deepest and scariest recession in our lifetime. he figured out, we'll bundle up a whole bunch of mortgage-backed securities designed to fail. Then we'll sell this crap to our customers and not tell them it's designed to fail. We'll be working with somebody else who's going to bet against it and make a whole ton of money. He knew it was a bunch of crap, but he hid that information from investors. He, by doing so, was rewarded by Goldman Sachs with over $2 million and given a promotion. After the crash, that deal and many others came under scrutiny. Why he's in jail, I do not know. Actually, nobody is in jail. He, in an email, was telling a girlfriend, this is a product of pure intellectual masturbation. This has no purpose, which is absolutely conceptual, highly theoretical, and nobody knows how to price. He was just reveling in his brilliance. Federal court did last year find him liable for 6 counts of civil securities fraud. His fines totaled $1 million. He has not paid it. He is contesting it. And meanwhile, while he's doing that, he decided to go get his PhD at the University of Chicago. And the University of Chicago thought, oh, this guy's just wonderful. Why don't we have him teach our students? Do you believe that? Well, the student newspaper, yes, did a story about who this guy was. And the student newspaper so humiliated the administration that they have backed off. This from the economics department, March 3rd, just 2 days ago. As preparations continue for the spring quarter, Fabrice Torre will no longer be assigned as an instructor for honors elements of economic analysis in the college. Instead, he will be able to fulfill the teaching requirements for his PhD program through opportunities in his department's graduate-level curriculum. Okay. Well, that's just some odds and ends I thought you should know about. And I think what I'm going to do now is take a break and bring our guest in, and we'll be changing topics to one that is, I'll tell you, it's hard to get your head around the numbers when you start educating yourself about sexual assault in the military. And sometimes numbers don't move us. Individual stories move us. So if tens of thousands of our soldiers are being assaulted by our soldiers, the way to start getting a handle on it really is to start hearing the stories, one person's story. And the cumulative impact starts allowing you maybe to let your brain get around the extraordinary numbers. So let's get a break in, and coming back with Tammy Ryan, playwright, Point Park professor, and on this issue, an activist. In a minute.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to see Pittsburgh versus St. Louis at PNC Park April 4th. Plus, lots of great free stuff every week. The CP Haps app, brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. They're more efficient than the old bulbs, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon. And they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All righty, welcome back. You know me, and that is Tammy Ryan. You Pittsburgh native?
No, I'm from New York originally.
Oh, you're
but
from...
I've been here since '88, so...
Do you think they say umbrellas here?
I say umbrella.
You say umbrella.
Yeah.
But have you heard umbrella?
Yes.
Did that ring a bell?
Right.
Ha ha!
But my mom says Monroeville, so...
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is weird when you come to a place that, is new to you and having to learn all these place names and how you... I still am loath to say things like Lancaster County. I know I don't have that one right. Lancaster.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, I know, but I would say Lancaster. That's what I would say, Lancaster. Lancaster, right? Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. The sexual assault crisis, it truly is. I mean, it's mind-boggling. The Department of Defense itself, these are 2012 figures, estimates, and they're estimating because they figure the vast majority of sexual assaults in the military are never...
Right, not reported?
Not reported. Mm-hmm. In fact, they think most are not reported. So they're sort of having to, out of the tea leaves and what they think, they estimate that 26,000 of our soldiers have been, was that in a year? Were raped in a year, in that year, 2012. Oh my God. Were raped and or otherwise sexually assaulted. 26,000. And that means that every day in 2012, on any given day, about 70 soldiers were getting assaulted. The majority are female, but...
Well, actually half.
Half?
Over
what?
half. I've heard the number that over half are male, actually. Yeah.
I doubt that they report.
No.
So they don't really have the numbers.
Right.
It's
Yeah. I heard like 1 in 3 was the number that I heard, but I don't, those numbers don't mean that much.
Well,
to me,
I know numbers don't. They sort of, it's easy. Numbers are easy.
Yeah.
People, what I was saying, I think people bring it home. Now, I introduced Tammy as a playwright, which is what she is, and one of your plays is called
Soldier's Heart.
Soldier's Heart. And it is about this. Can you tell us about, well, first of all, what made you go there as a playwright?
Well, I guess it was around 2008, and I was, maybe 2007. I was thinking it was time to write about the war, the wars, as a playwright. I had felt like I had some obligation to, talk about what was going on. Not a lot of writers were writing about it, or a lot of theaters were not producing plays about the war. So I felt an obligation. And at that time, my daughter was in kindergarten, and I met a young woman who was the mom of one of my daughter's friends. And I didn't know that she was in the military. She was in the reserves. She was in the Marines. And one day after school, she was standing there completely dressed in her desert camouflage combat boots, her hair in a bun, and she told me she was deploying to the Middle East, and she was going to be gone for 9 months, which was kindergarten. That was the whole year of kindergarten. So I started to wrap my mind around that, what that would be like. About
leaving your
just
child.
As a parent,
Can't imagine.
Yeah. And so I started to investigate, and around 2008, the articles began coming out in the New York Times about the numbers of, sexual assault victims in the military. And again, I couldn't wrap my mind around that. I think the number was 26,000 then, too. I think that's the number.
Well, maybe
put
they
out
just
there.
keep throwing it out. I guess it's about 26,000.
Because the numbers are really meaningless.
They are.
Really.
They are.
But what astounded me was the sense, the irony, of, the sacrifice that you make to, your family and your life, and to go into harm's way, and what you have to worry about is your fellow soldier who's supposed to have your back, and that I couldn't really shake. So I didn't want to write about this subject.
You didn't?
No. This is not.
Why not?
Because it's intense. It's depressing. It's scary. It's and I felt like I didn't really have the right to tell the story because I'm not in the military. I don't come from a military family. It took me a long time to give myself permission to write about it. But I read a lot of books, first-hand accounts about women in the military, and this same things would come up all the time about the culture that this sort of misogynistic culture that the military is. It's like a boys' finishing school, and there really isn't, as much as they depend on women to get the job done. I mean, they need women to fill in all these jobs that need to be done. They needed them to go over there and fight in Iraq. There seems to be resentment there, and I don't know. That's one of the. I mean, it's multifactorial. I think why there's so many of these sexual assaults. I think that's one of the culture of sort of.
Well, a macho culture.
Right.
What does it breed?
Right.
I mean, we can talk about football locker rooms, or we can talk about the U.S. military.
Well, one of the things they call women Marines are walking mattresses. I mean, that
who calls them that?
Fellow Marines. I mean, it's that's just
walking
the way
mattresses.
It is. Yeah.
Why would any young woman, even if she's desirous of serving her country in this manner, why would she enlist anymore? Why would she go in with this reality?
Right. That's my question. I don't.
That is, you wouldn't want your daughter, or you would no.
Yeah. No, my daughter went into the creative arts, and when she told me she wanted to do that, I said the only worst thing you could have told me was that you were joining the military, and I meant that. But some people don't have a choice. I mean, it's a way of paying for school, making a living, and having a life. Some people have to do that, and I think that women are, young women are sold a bill of goods a little bit with recruiters. And again, this isn't my expertise, so I'm not, it's just my observation.
Okay, so before you write a play, when you say you're not from a military family, you yourself have not served, blah, 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 well, then you've obviously got to immerse yourself in that culture. You've got to do an awful, so how much, how did you approach that?
Well, I began with reading books, written by journalists, a lot of them. Band of Sisters, I wish I could remember her name is. I'm not going to remember the names.
Well,
I should have those names for those books. But then I talked to a few Marines, one in particular, who became my source initially, just to get the jargon, the way military people speak to each other. There's so many layers of code, the way they talk, and the rank system was difficult for me to wrap my mind around.
Yeah.
And he was so patient, and he answered my questions. And then in our conversations, this subject, a lot of what I was thinking about and finding, he began to validate my sort of assumptions about what was going on.
Where did you find this particular Marine?
Well, he was a dad of a daughter that my daughter knew. So, and actually, initially, he wanted to talk to me about getting some advice about writing. He wanted to write about some of his experiences. In fact, now he's in grad school studying writing. So we.
You said, "I'll help you with that." You help me with this.
Exactly.
So, for an older Marine guy, he was pretty forthright, you think?
Well, he was a younger Marine guy. He's younger than I am. Yeah, he's very honest and very thoughtful, very smart, very loyal, Semper Fi to the Marines and everything.
So?
But at the same time can see, the reality. And he had a number of females under his command, and he could see the difficulty that they had to go through. But it was also difficult for him, having women in sort of combat situations. It made things more difficult for him at the same time. So he could sort of see it from both sides, I think.
I'm looking at a quote. This is from that incredible film. If you have not seen The Invisible War, and I'm sure it's on Netflix, and I'm sure it's on demand or something, you can just find it everywhere. Please, please, please see that. That brings it home. But from that, a female soldier in combat zones is more likely to be raped by a fellow soldier than killed by enemy fire. Take your pick. So our soldiers, some of our soldiers, females and some males, in a combat zone are not only having to look that away for the enemy, but have to look behind them all the time for the other enemy. And the enemy that actually has more access to them, the scarier enemy, might be the ones wearing the same uniform you are. This is untenable, and it can't go on. So I'm a little confused of how did the U.S. Congress and the Senate finally wake up to this? Because they are seriously talking about this. And I find it interesting how Republican, Democrat, it doesn't seem to matter a lot on this one, that everybody is freaked out.
Yeah. Well, I think it has to do with the documentary, The Invisible War. I mean, that's because I was sort of tracking this, what was going on, because I was doing my research, and I saw The Invisible War about probably a year after I'd written my play. And around that time, very shortly after that, Leon Panetta lifted the ban.
Was he then the Defense
Secretary of Defense? Yeah, he lifted the ban on women in combat, and that was one of the first things he did after seeing the movie. And I see everything that's happened, all the attention that has gone happening because of that movie. They saw this movie, and you cannot deny it when you see these stories, when you see these women and their husbands, and it's backed up with interviews from people on both sides. The military trying to defend itself, saying the things that it's doing at that time. I mean, a lot has changed since then. I mean, this documentary really has
already affected change.
Yeah.
But it seems like we're still unsure how to proceed. And there is, I know, the senator from New York, Kirsten Gillibrand, has been way out in front on this issue. She is so enraged. And her idea is the only way this is going to stop is you've got to take this out of the prosecution. A soldier who's raped should not have to report that rape to her commander, because that's how it works now, right?
Right. The chain of command.
They
have to go through that chain of command, and often
those are the people who raped her.
Yeah, or there's conflict. There's a conflict of interest there, because
your career's screwed,
and
right?
you want unit cohesion, and it's a blight on you if this happens in your unit. I mean, there's so many different reasons why it's not really not a good idea. I think they're trying to. Well, she wants to take it out of the command. I think Obama has come up with a version of this that kind of
you set up a separate.
Yeah, if it's once it's reported, if there's a problem, they try to throw it out. Then it will go to another sort of outside counsel or something. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear from the military why they resist taking that out of the chain of command.
Well, I think it's that slippery slope argument. They have that very, very top-down thing, which is how the military functions, and to have any incursion into that, I'm sure they see as very threatening.
Right. But this is not a new problem. This is an old problem. It's been going on for a long time, and nothing has changed. And I think we're sort of at tipping point right now. The more people find out about this, more people start talking about it. I mean, that's part of the problem, like how to talk about it. And I think that the event we're having at Bricolage on Saturday, the Fifth Wall, is an effort to have a conversation about this. And part of how that came about was I was at another Fifth Wall event. Tammy Dixon, the artistic director of Bricolage.
Why is it called the Fifth Wall? I'm sorry,
yes.
Dave.
The Fifth Wall, I think, means, there's the fourth wall in theater, like between the audience and the performers, and this is about exploding that. It's breaking down that wall and having a conversation with the audience, using art to sort of crack open an issue. And with a panel, there'll be a panel of civilians and military, and we'll discuss with the audience about this subject, which is a difficult subject to talk about. And as I was saying, I was at another Fifth Wall event about military in general, people coming home, and women in the military came up, and I actually asked the question, well, what about, this epidemic of sexual assault in the military? And it just shut the conversation down. The panelists were men, and they did not know how to respond to it. And I didn't really know how to respond to their lack of response. And the audience was silent, and we were silenced. It was a physical experience of being silenced. It was very upsetting. And then the next day, Tammy emailed me and was like, we have to do something about this. This was extraordinary. What happened here? We need to maybe have our own Fifth Wall about this, to really dig into this and have a conversation about it. Because I think the more people who know about it, I mean, nobody wants rape in the military, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer, except the rapists perhaps. But it's. I just think if we get critical mass, they're going to have to do something about it.
What we're referring to on Saturday at Bricolage is an event. It's from 3 to 5. Okay, Bricolage down here on Penn, right? Penn. That's
937 Liberty.
Liberty. Why can't I get Liberty and Penn right? I just can't. I give it up.
They're close.
Well, I know they're parallel, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't Penn then the next one over?
Right.
Damn it! It's Liberty, Bricolage, and it's right. I can see it from here practically. So 3 to 5. And so this event will, first of all, we're going, your play, Soldier's Heart, is going to be produced.
Right. Well, we're doing, Tammy has chosen excerpts from The Invisible War, the documentary, and we're juxtaposing that with scenes from the play, which was produced at the Pittsburgh Playhouse in the fall. So we have the actors who performed in that play. Maria Elena O'Brien is coming in from New York. She plays the lead. She's come to perform, and so you'll see excerpts from the movie, and then right after that, another version of events with live actors in a play. And then, so the artistic part is about 40 minutes, and then we'll take a short break and then have a panelist discussion with Ginny Hildebrand, who...
she's representing a group called SAM, which is Stop Sexual Assault in the Military. And you will also be on the panel. First Sergeant William Jenkins.
And
who's that brave soldier?
He's a Marine, and he's my friend.
Oh,
and he's my source. I just outed him. No, but he will be there, and as well as Joyce Wagner, who is
with Iraq veterans
against the war.
And Tammy Dixon, the extraordinarily talented. Actress, writer, producer, director of Bricolage production company is going to be moderating it all. And it sounds like I'm going to be in Philly, so I can't be there, but I sure would like to. Stop Sexual Assault in the Military, a Fifth Wall performance, 3 to 5. Is this free?
Yes, it is.
That's the best part. It's free. I'll tell you what, I got to take a break. We'll come back. You have any questions, statements, anything, you can get me on email, lynn@pghcitypaper.com, or you can give us a call at 412-316-3381. Be back in a minute.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
BergBargains.com is the best bet for great deals in the Berg. Log on today for exclusive bargains from your favorite local restaurants like Blue Line Grill, Atria's, and Verde. Plus discounts on gift cards from H&M, Nordstrom's, and the Cheesecake Factory. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
Babies come with lots of decisions.
Cloth or disposable? Crib or bassinet?
So when it comes to protection, go with the safest, most effective choice, vaccination. Get all the recommended vaccines for your baby by age 2 to protect your child against 14 serious childhood diseases. For more reasons to vaccinate, talk to your child's doctor. Go to cdc.gov/vaccines or call 800-CDC-INFO. A message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, we're back with Tammy Ryan. Portions of her play will be presented at this Fifth Wall event, Sexual Assault in the Military, at Bricolage, on Saturday from 3 to 5. Back to your play, because it starts. It's about a Marine, Casey Johnson, female, and she went off as a extraordinarily confident. Give us a sense of your protagonist.
Yeah, I think at the beginning she's a competent Marine. She's kind of a by-the-book Marine. She's happy to go serve her country. She's leaving behind a young son, and that's probably her only regret. She leaves her son in the care of her mother. And in the beginning of the first scene of the play, she's preparing to go. So she creates a list of things that her mother needs to take care of. Like, she's very organized. She's very probably over-organized.
Little OCD.
Little controlling of the whole situation. But she's in a good place. She's ready to go. She's ready to do this. She has a job to do, and she's going to do it. And then the second scene takes place 9 months later, and she's, dramatically altered. She's lost weight. Her affect is, flat. She's tense. Anything that happens stresses her out. And she's speaking to her mother in a way she never spoke to her before. And I got this idea to create that kind of juxtaposition because many of the accounts that I read from women and their family members was that they came back completely different. And it's not just, you don't have to be sexually assaulted to have this experience. I mean, it was a combination of a lot of things that happened there. What happens to people in war? How do you go from being a parent and then, what do you do with that? I mean, she talks about putting one of her fellow Marines tells her to put her son in a little box and throw away the key while she's there. You have to sort of become this warrior when you're over there, and then how do you now turn that off and come back?
Well, obviously, that is an extremely difficult transformation to make because we see so many returning soldiers struggling, as you say, whether they experience sexual assault or not. So she leaves as this confident, capable woman, Marine and soldier, and she comes back as this scarred and
damaged. And she decides that she's not going to see her son. Because she doesn't trust herself. She doesn't feel like his mother anymore, and that's sort of the catalyst of the play, that she's not going to see her son. And so gradually, as the play moves forward, she reveals pretty soon, right away, that she was raped. It's not a secret that she was raped. That's not what the play really is about. From her mother, she has an ex-husband who is also a Marine who kind of understands what she's going through, although they have their own conflicts, and he's trying to help her, but he really kind of needs her to step up and be a parent again. But the play goes back and forth from here and Iraq. So there's scenes
Okay,
there.
so it's going. But you know, as you talk, what I realize, because obviously the play is is holding a mirror to this all too common reality. But I'm wondering, I don't think we think of the fact that besides the damage done to the soldiers who are sexually abused, these tens of thousands of soldiers, is that they have families. So that, I mean, it's like this, drop a little pebble into the water. It's just, it's her child, her mother, her ex-husband, I'm sure her friends, everybody, and everybody seems to feel powerless, which brings me back to, good heavens, I'm talking about the American people and our government's responsibility to these people.
Yeah, that's a theme that I hit on a little bit in the play, too. The mom has a conversation where it's like, well, what are they going to do for you? What are the people who sent you over there going to do for you? Don't they have a responsibility?
What do they do?
Yeah.
So the mental health services at the VA are
well, I
not up to snuff?
I think the VA has gotten better since, when the first wave of them started coming home. It seems like they have gotten better. So a number of people from the VA came to see the play, and while the play is somewhat critical of the help that she's not getting and the response there, they agreed with that, but there was some expression that there are people that are working hard to help these people, but the system is kind of, jerry-rigged to begin with. When it takes so long to get an appointment, you can't months and months and months. I mean, they're backlogged.
So you've got, just back to what the government's trying to do, as I mentioned, Kirsten Gillibrand's. She's got a ton of other senators on board with her, but she doesn't have the magic number of them. She has a majority, but she doesn't have that supermajority required to prevent filibuster, and consequently, and my sense is that she's hit a brick wall. And she has been, you could look at it as undercut by a fellow senator and a female senator, Missouri's Claire McCaskill, or you could just argue that McCaskill's being more the pragmatist here and thinking, well, here's what we can get through. I don't know. But McCaskill has a bill as well. So it is two of our female senators who are really on top of this. My understanding from the report I'm looking at here from the National Journal is that McCaskill's proposal is more moderate. It does increase the accountability of the commander, but it doesn't strip the chain of command of the power to decide whether or not sexual assault charges or cases are prosecuted.
Right.
However, it does also allow survivors to challenge unfair discharge from the service. This is McCaskill's, and stop soldiers from using good military character as a defense. I guess in past they've been able to say, well, he's an exemplary soldier. So what if he raped somebody? I mean, go easy on the poor guy. Her plan is non-controversial, enjoys broad bipartisan support, and is expected to be adopted easily. That the same cannot be said of Gillibrand's because that is stalling. I would imagine that the folks, for instance, at this Stop Sexual Abuse in the Military are behind the bill that looks like it's going to have a little more difficulty.
Yeah, I think Ginny will have a lot to say about that at the on Saturday.
And I mean, if you think about it, we're talking about the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and authority over all criminal cases in the military rests with the offender, whoever's on trial, rests with their commanding officer. Not with judges, not with prosecutors, but with the commanding officer. And this, I mean, you don't even have to have a great imagination to realize that that could easily create a very, very sticky and biased system for everybody involved, the victim and perhaps the accused. The victims and the accused, risk of retaliation by their commanders, risk of their careers, risk of discharge, whatever. I mean, all of. I don't know, but I guess the good news is this thing's out of the bottle. Mm-hmm. This is now something that is going to have to be dealt with. There is a big article, and I draw your attention to it in today's Post-Gazette, an AP article about a sexual assault trial that's going on right now at Fort Bragg, and it involves the commander. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you do in a case like that? He reports it to himself?
Right. Right.
And it does involve, I mean, he's a big guy. He was one of the major, General Jeffrey Sinclair, former 82nd Airborne Deputy Commander in Afghanistan and Iraq. He has admitted to a consensual and ongoing affair with a female officer under him. Mm-hmm. Which is enough. That right. destroys his career right there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But he says, look, this was all consensual. Mm-hmm. We were together, and then when it broke off, she comes at me with these charges. Mm-hmm. He faces life in prison if convicted. Mm. They had a 3-year affair. The prosecutor in this case has literally gone insane because he feels such pressure. He's feeling pressure because of the politics of the moment. Mm-hmm. He's feeling pressure from I don't quite comprehend it, but this is what happens when you have that chain of command involved in the judicial aspect of trying to find truth. The jury, by the way, in this case is made up of all generals.
Huh. Wow.
I guess that's a jury of your peers.
Wow.
All generals.
Mm. Well, something else to think about too, like if this is, he says it's consensual. There's that hierarchy.
What's consensual when somebody is your commanding officer?
And that's often used in a way. You know, soldiers or Marines, they're young. They're trained to take orders. They're trained to not question authority. You know, so that's used to manipulate them. And all of those generals will be sympathetic to.
You would think they would identify with the guy. His career's done. This General Sinclair is kaput. He's finished. But obviously his defense is now, attempting to keep him out of jail. But this is just one. This is just one. And again, that ripple effect of all of these lives impacted. And if you just had some kind of a more proactive system going on in the military where this is so obviously not something you can ever get away with.
Right.
But they have gotten away with it forever.
Right.
And so obviously some big change has to happen.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's cultural, and it speaks to the larger culture that we're in too. You know, so it's I don't know. I don't have any answers. I'm mostly full of questions, but I appreciate you talking about this today, though. And if people can come to the discussion on Saturday, I think that's what we need to do. We need to have a conversation about it. People need to start talking about it. You can't be silenced about it anymore. And I think it's our obligation as citizens to be involved in this and to educate ourselves about this subject because, we owe these people something,
Well, yes, we sure as heck do. And we're so quick to call everyone in uniform a hero. Mm-hmm. And we're so quick to, get out the marching bands and the flags. Mm-hmm. And this all-volunteer army. And then we turn our backs when they come back broken, and we turn our backs when the system itself is clearly in need of some kind of a change, given the fact of women's role now in the military. I want to suggest, too, that for those of you who aren't going to be able to make the Bricolage event on Saturday, what you can do is get in touch with Senator Toomey and Senator Casey. And Toomey has been pretty outspoken on this issue.
Right. I think he's got a bill sort of like McCaskill's. Yeah, he definitely doesn't want it out of the chain of command, but he's trying to put a bill forward, too.
Okay. But so you might, listen, this is where, and, write him a letter. And obviously, a lot of folks do think that this kind of a situation should be in the hands of experienced prosecutors and not people in the chain of command of the victim and or the perpetrator. So it somehow has to be something neutral has to be somewhere where if they can do a finding and then it could proceed to maybe back into the military for court-martial. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But when the Department of Defense itself estimates 26,000 American soldiers are sexually assaulted in a year, that is a problem of such mind-boggling proportion. And 86%, they figure, of all of those assaults are never reported.
Yeah.
And we don't see the damage done by those who never, people who just swallow it, who just go on and don't. And if you do nothing else, please see that documentary, An Invisible War.
The
Invisible War. Tammy Ryan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Bricolage, Saturday, 3 to 5. Sounds like some fascinating, and important stuff to get ourselves into. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, Tom Sokolowski. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.